What if your greatest enemy isn't your weakness, but your thoughts? What if every failure you faced wasn't because you lacked power, but because you hesitated to use it? Overthinking is the art of losing battles before they begin. And Machiavelli, the master of decisive power, taught us one simple rule: those who wait for perfect conditions never conquer anything. In this video, we will uncover Machiavelli's winning formula, how to stop drowning in thoughts and start acting like the victor you were meant to be. Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't a dreamer, he was a strategist. He understood the mind's greatest trap: hesitation. The world rewards the man of action, not the man of intention. In this Machiavellian journey, we'll explore 6 powerful laws to silence overthinking and replace it with movement, dominance, and clarity. Because as Machiavelli said, it is not titles that make men great, but action. The overthinker believes he is wise. He convinces himself that he is being strategic, that caution is the path to safety. But beneath this mask of logic hides something far more dangerous: fear. It wears the robe of reason, speaks in the voice of intellect, and whispers, "Wait a little longer." Yet Machiavelli would tell you that this voice is not your ally. It is your executioner. Fear has a clever disguise. It doesn't come to you shouting, it comes disguised as patience. It tells you to wait for a better time, a clearer sign, or more certainty before acting. But the truth Machiavelli saw in rulers, generals, and men of ambition was this: those who wait for perfect clarity never act at all. They are caught in an endless loop of what-ifs, while the bold step forward and claim the rewards that the hesitant only dream of. Overthinking gives you the illusion of control. You feel like you're preparing for the future, when in reality, you are freezing yourself in the present. The more you think, the more your doubts multiply. You start questioning your abilities, your timing, your worth, and soon, your own mind becomes a battlefield where every idea fights against another, and nothing survives long enough to become action. Machiavelli understood this sickness of hesitation. He saw it destroy kings before their enemies ever reached the gate. He knew that when a man delays too long, his opportunity fades. In politics, in war, and in life, he believed that indecision is a greater danger than a wrong decision. Because a wrong decision can be corrected, but indecision can never be undone. It simply becomes decay. Picture this: 2 rulers facing a rival. One acts swiftly without knowing every detail. The other waits, gathering more intelligence, more counsel, more time. The first may stumble, but he learns, adapts, strikes again. The second never even enters the battlefield. He becomes wise only in theory, a scholar of possibilities, not a master of results. Machiavelli would call this man not cautious, but weak. Overthinking is fear pretending to be intelligence. It whispers, "You're not ready." It tricks you into polishing your plans endlessly, as if perfection will save you. But perfection is a lie created by fear to keep you from progress. The truth is, no plan ever survives its first encounter with reality. The man who wins is not the one who knows everything before he moves, but the one who moves first and learns everything as he goes. You must understand, the world doesn't pause for your certainty. Fortune rewards momentum, not hesitation. The longer you think, the more your chances decay. Every second spent in analysis is a second where someone else is acting, deciding, claiming. The battlefield of life belongs to those who strike, not to those who speculate. When Machiavelli said, "He who waits for certainty will wait forever," he wasn't being poetic. He was revealing a truth about human weakness. The great danger is not in ignorance, but in paralysis. The overthinker dies not from failure, but from never daring to fail. He becomes a prisoner inside his own intelligence, a man with every reason but no results. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the tragedy of brilliance without boldness. A mind full of ideas is a kingdom with no soldiers. It has castles of imagination, towers of logic, but no army to defend or expand them. This is the curse of the overthinker. He builds empires in his mind, yet none in the world. Machiavelli would call such a man intelligent, but powerless. Because what good is a brilliant plan if it never leaves the safety of your thoughts? Thought, by itself, is potential energy. It sits waiting, promising greatness, but producing nothing. Execution is the bridge between imagination and reality. Without it, all knowledge turns to dust. Machiavelli saw this truth in the courts of Florence, where men of great intellect debated endlessly while bolder, less educated men seized the throne. He observed that success rarely belonged to the smartest. It belonged to the doers, those who were willing to take one imperfect step while others were still mapping the road. The overthinker clings to his ideas like a miser clings to gold, afraid to spend them, afraid to risk loss. He refines, revises, rehearses, yet never releases. He mistakes motion of the mind for movement in the world. Machiavelli knew this illusion well. He wrote that fortune favors not the careful planner, but the man who acts with conviction, even when the outcome is uncertain. Because while thinkers wait for the right moment, the world changes without them. There is a hidden arrogance in endless planning. The overthinker believes he can outsmart uncertainty, that he can calculate every possible outcome before committing. But the truth Machiavelli taught was ruthless. No plan survives first contact with life. Reality will always test, twist, and break your strategy. The only difference is that the man of action learns and adapts, while the overthinker keeps adjusting a plan that never leaves the page. Power does not exist in the mind, it is born in motion. Each action you take multiplies your influence, reshapes your surroundings, and forces others to respond. When you act, you create ripples that change the field around you. You stop being a spectator and become a player. Machiavelli believed that rulers who waited for ideal conditions were already doomed because control is not gained through waiting, it is forged through impact. You must see the pattern. Every thinker who never acts becomes a servant to the one who does. The man of ideas may design the crown, but it is the man of execution who wears it. The world remembers results, not reasoning. The conqueror is not remembered for his thoughts before battle, but for his victory afterward. Overthinking kills initiative because it feeds on perfection. It tells you to wait until you are certain, until you have every resource, until you feel ready. But Machiavelli would laugh at this illusion of readiness. He believed that certainty is a myth, that every great achievement is built on imperfect beginnings. The man who conquers does not wait for confidence, he creates it by acting despite doubt. Every hesitation weakens momentum. Every moment of thinking without action drains the will to strike. The longer you plan, the heavier your own ideas become, until they crush the courage that once sparked them. Machiavelli's wisdom was cruel but liberating, that a flawed decision executed with power will always triumph over a perfect one never attempted. To think without acting is to possess a sword and never draw it. It is to live as a soldier who never goes to war, admiring his armor while the world burns around him. Machiavelli would remind you that the mind was never meant to be a cage for ambition. Thought is only valuable when it breathes through action. The overthinker stands at the edge of uncertainty like a man staring into fog, frozen, waiting for it to clear before stepping forward. But the fog never clears on its own. It waits for one thing: courage. Machiavelli would tell you that the unknown is not conquered through observation, but through entry. You cannot control what you refuse to face. You cannot master what you will not meet. He understood that the world belongs to those who move, while others hesitate. The fog is not your enemy. It is the test that separates thinkers from conquerors. The cautious man waits for the path to reveal itself, but the man of power creates the path by walking it. Every great ruler, every strategist, every victor faced the same uncertainty. Yet the difference was in their movement. They acted not because they knew the outcome, but because they refused to be ruled by doubt. Overthinking is the art of trying to win battles that have not yet begun. You stand there, replaying possibilities, preparing for dangers that might never come. You tell yourself you are being strategic, but Machiavelli would call it fear disguised as intellect. He would remind you that no man ever discovered his strength by thinking about it. Strength is revealed only when it is tested. You cannot think your way into courage. You must walk into the uncertainty and let it bend before you. Machiavelli saw this truth in war and politics alike. Those who entered the unknown gained leverage over those who waited. Because movement creates information. When you act, the fog begins to thin. You see what was hidden, you sense what was missing, and suddenly you have clarity that the overthinker will never reach. The one who hesitates is always guessing. The one who moves starts knowing. Action transforms uncertainty into intelligence. The unknown is not a wall, it's a mirror. It reflects your hesitation back at you. The more you fear it, the larger it grows. But when you step forward, it shrinks. Machiavelli believed that fortune responds to boldness, that life itself respects the man who moves first. The future doesn't open its doors to those who wait politely. It surrenders to those who knock loudly. You must understand, the unknown has no loyalty. It will serve whoever dares to command it. When you wait for certainty, someone else is already shaping it. The fog that scares you is the same fog your rival walks through, and when he does, he owns what you feared to claim. Machiavelli saw hesitation as a luxury of the powerless. The prince, the ruler, the strategist, they could never afford it. Because power does not come from avoiding risk, it comes from mastering it. Every great achievement begins as a step into darkness. The general does not see the full battlefield before the first move. The ruler does not know if his alliances will hold. The entrepreneur, the leader, the visionary, none of them start with full vision. They move first, and the world reveals itself afterward. This is how control is built, not through endless thought, but through decisive entry into the unknown. When you enter the fog, you gain something that no overthinker can ever possess: momentum. The world begins to respond to you. Obstacles shift, opportunities appear, allies emerge. The man who moves sets events into motion. The man who waits remains a spectator in a game he could have won. Machiavelli's wisdom was ruthless yet liberating. That uncertainty is not to be feared, but commanded. And it is commanded only by those who act before the fog clears. Every moment you hesitate, someone else advances. Every time you wait for the perfect condition, the world quietly rearranges itself without you. Machiavelli understood that power is not discovered, it is generated. It is a living force that grows only through movement. The man who acts expands his influence with every motion, while the man who waits becomes irrelevant in his own story. Action to Machiavelli was not just a behavior, it was a weapon. He saw it as the only way to bend fortune to your will. Because the moment you act, you create disturbance, you change the balance of things. You force others to respond. The world is not static, it reacts to initiative. The very act of deciding, of moving, of asserting yourself in motion, reshapes your environment. You no longer live under conditions, you create them. Those who wait believe that patience protects them. But Machiavelli would remind you that in the game of power, waiting is decay. The longer you delay, the weaker your position becomes. Others occupy the spaces you hesitated to claim. Opportunities that once belonged to you shift into someone else's grasp. Inaction is not neutrality. It's surrender disguised as wisdom. He wrote that fortune is a woman, and she favors the bold. It was not a metaphor of romance, but of reality. Fortune, like opportunity, rewards those who act without hesitation. The man who hesitates too long loses her forever. Machiavelli believed that power was a living thing. It needed friction, motion, and risk to stay alive. The cautious man, the one who avoids action until he feels safe, unknowingly starves his own authority. Every empire, Every victory, every conquest in history began not with knowledge, but with motion. The first step, the first strike, the first declaration. You cannot gain control by thinking about power. You must claim it. Machiavelli saw rulers who lost everything not because they were weak, but because they moved too slowly. They waited for more allies, more certainty, more information, and by the time they acted, the world had already chosen another master. Power is built like fire. It begins with a spark, grows with fuel, and dies when neglected. Every action you take feeds that fire. Every hesitation smothers it. Even mistakes, to Machiavelli, were not failures. They were momentum. A wrong move still carries energy. A wrong decision can still inspire fear, demand attention, and command respect. But inaction, it communicates only weakness. It tells the world that you are willing to be ruled. You must understand that the illusion of waiting for the right time is the oldest lie your mind will ever tell you. There is no right time. There is only time and what you do with it. Action transforms ordinary men into threats. It turns observers into contenders. The man who moves becomes unpredictable. His enemies cannot plan for him because he himself is in constant motion. Machiavelli believed that power accumulates with each step taken. Every decision, every risk, every initiative sends a message: I exist and I am willing to act. The world begins to orbit around those who dare to move, but the man who waits for the perfect opening becomes invisible, a silent spectator of his own decline. You must see the truth. Hesitation doesn't preserve your safety, it erodes your strength. Every delay feeds doubt. Every pause strengthens the opposition. Action, even reckless at times, breathes life into your authority. Waiting kills it. Machiavelli's wisdom was clear. To control the game, you must move first, strike fast, and accept that power is born not from knowing when to act, but from refusing not to. Emotion is the most seductive enemy a strategist will ever face. It disguises itself as passion, as intuition, as humanity. But to Machiavelli, emotion was chaos, a force that clouded reason and destroyed precision. He believed that the moment you let your emotions govern your decisions, you stop being a strategist and start being a servant to your impulses. Emotion makes you reactive, and reaction is the death of control. The overthinker often lives in emotional turmoil. He feels every possibility before it happens, imagines every consequence, and lets fear or excitement rule his logic. Machiavelli would look at such a man and see not sensitivity, but weakness. Because emotions blur vision, they make you believe something is urgent when it is not. They convince you that comfort equals safety, that hesitation equals wisdom. Emotion is the whisper that turns clear thinking into confusion. In war, generals who acted on anger lost more than battles. They lost their kingdoms. In politics, rulers who followed affection instead of reason were destroyed by those who did not. Machiavelli saw emotion as the crack through which ruin entered power. To him, control over others began with control over oneself. The prince who could not rule his feelings would never rule his world. When you are ruled by emotion, you become predictable. Your enemies can read you. They know how to push you, how to provoke you, how to distract you. But when you are calm, when your actions are rooted in reason rather than reaction, you become unreadable. And that unreadability is a shield stronger than any armor. Machiavelli would say that power belongs to the one who remains still while others drown in their feelings. Emotions are temporary storms. Strategy is the architecture that survives them. The man who learns to act independently of emotion gains the ultimate advantage: clarity. When everyone else reacts to the noise, you move with purpose. When others panic, you observe. When they are offended, you stay silent. This calm is not weakness, it is weaponry. The cold mind cuts deeper than the passionate heart ever could. Machiavelli believed that emotion must be used, not obeyed. He did not suggest you erase your feelings. He taught that you must turn them into instruments. Anger can be converted into energy. Fear can sharpen awareness. Desire can fuel ambition. but they must never lead, they must serve. The wise ruler directs his emotions like a general directs his army, with discipline, distance, and design. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they let emotion dictate timing. They act too soon out of excitement or too late out of fear. They speak when they should observe. They surrender to moods instead of strategy. Machiavelli's greatest insight was that emotion is impatient, but power requires patience. The ruler who can delay his reaction gains control over both himself and his environment. Every emotion wants expression. It begs to be acted upon immediately. But Machiavelli would whisper, "Wait." Not because hesitation is virtue, but because waiting grants perspective. A moment of pause before action separates the controlled from the consumed. The overthinker lets emotion paralyze him. The fool lets emotion drive him, but the strategist bends emotion to his will, converting it into precision. When you remove emotion from your decision-making, something extraordinary happens. Clarity returns. You begin to see situations as they are, not as you wish them to be. You begin to move, not because you feel compelled, but because it is the right move at the right time. Emotion makes men impulsive. Strategy makes them untouchable. Machiavelli's wisdom was simple. To rule others, you must first conquer yourself, and the greatest conquest of all begins within the walls of your own emotions. Victory has never belonged to the thinkers, the dreamers, or the hesitant. It belongs to the decisive, the man who can decide when others delay, who can act when others analyze, who can choose a direction and make the world follow. Machiavelli understood that indecision was not neutrality. It was surrender in disguise. Every time you hesitate, you hand the initiative to someone else. Every moment you wait, your control fades into the hands of those who move. Decisiveness is not about always being right. It's about refusing to be stuck. The decisive man understands that power is built not on perfection, but on motion. When you make a choice, you give shape to the world around you. You send a signal that you are not a spectator, but a force. Machiavelli believed that even an imperfect decision, executed boldly, would crush a perfect one delayed too long, because momentum has a power that precision never will. The overthinker hesitates because he fears the cost of being wrong. The decisive man acts because he fears the cost of doing nothing. That is the difference between weakness and dominance. The overthinker drowns in what if, while the decisive man lives in what now. He does not need certainty, he creates it. He understands that clarity is not a gift from the world, it's a result of movement. Each decision carves a path, each action builds authority. Machiavelli saw this truth in every court and kingdom. The rulers who triumphed were not those who spent the longest time calculating, but those who could command themselves to act. To delay was to lose respect. To waver was to bleed power. In politics, in war, and in life, people follow the decisive because decisiveness feels like strength. Even when uncertain, a bold decision creates confidence in others, and confidence is influence. Indecision, on the other hand, breeds chaos. It confuses your allies and emboldens your enemies. It tells the world you are afraid to commit, afraid to risk, afraid to lead. Machiavelli knew that hesitation weakens not just your position, but your presence. The world does not wait for those who cannot decide. It simply moves on without them. Power is not granted to the deserving. It is taken by the determined. The decisive man does not fear mistakes. He understands that every wrong choice teaches more than hesitation ever could. Failure is information, hesitation is ignorance. When you decide quickly and act with conviction, you learn faster, adapt faster, and recover faster than the man still debating his next step. The secret of victory lies in this rhythm. Act, learn, adjust, repeat. Machiavelli would say that this is how power evolves, not in the safety of planning, but in the heat of execution. When you decide, you declare war on doubt. The moment you commit, uncertainty begins to dissolve. Because decisions themselves shape reality. They create ripples that move people, resources, and outcomes. A single decision can ignite a revolution. A single hesitation can extinguish one. Machiavelli knew that history only remembers those who dared to decide. The rest are forgotten, buried beneath their unmade choices. He would remind you that decisive men bend luck to their favor because fortune, like power, despises hesitation. Life rewards the one who claims it, not the one who waits for permission. The man who can decide in moments of confusion becomes the anchor in storms. While others panic, he acts. While others seek assurance, he commands. His authority comes not from knowing every answer, but from daring to choose when others cannot. Machiavelli saw decisiveness as the highest form of discipline, the mastery of self that turns intention into impact. To decide is to lead, to hesitate is to follow. Every empire, every dynasty, every legacy began with one choice that others were too afraid to make. The decisive are not fearless, they simply understand that movement itself is power, and that victory is never given to the one who thinks the longest. It is seized by the one who decides first. Overthinking is the silent poison of potential. It disguises itself as wisdom, whispers safety, and traps you inside the walls of your own mind. But Machiavelli knew that thought alone changes nothing. Only action shapes the world. The men who hesitate lose their crowns to those who dare. The ones who wait for certainty die waiting. His formula was never complicated. It was brutal in its simplicity. Act. Decide. Move. The moment you step forward, the fog of confusion begins to clear. You stop reacting to life and start commanding it. Every action, no matter how small, strengthens your will. Every decision, even imperfect, builds your authority. Machiavelli taught that greatness belongs to those who can rule their own minds before trying to rule anything else. To stop overthinking is not to stop thinking. It is to master thought with motion. Power does not come from understanding the path, it comes from walking it with conviction. The world you want will not come to you because you desire it. It will come because you dared to claim it. Machiavelli's winning formula is timeless. Think less, move faster, decide boldly, because in the end, it is not the cautious who rise, but the courageous who act while others wait.